The novitius. You arrived this morning. You are a novitius. The word means simply the new one, a prospect, a raw acquisition. You have not yet been accepted into formal training. You have not yet sworn the oath. You are still, at this moment, nothing more than a calculation, a number the lanista is running in his head, comparing the price he paid for you in the slave market against the potential return if you turn out to be worth developing. You came from somewhere. Maybe Gaul, where Roman legions swept through your village and took prisoners in bulk. Maybe you were a free man crushed under a debt that grew until the only exit was the contract on the lanista's table, the auctoramentum, the voluntary agreement that free men occasionally signed because the alternatives had run out. Maybe you were sentenced here by a magistrate. The route doesn't matter to anyone inside these walls. What matters is whether you can be made into something. The ludus is more fortress than school. High stone walls. A single gate facing outward. Inside, a training yard, a kitchen, a hospital, a blacksmith. Cells arranged around a central courtyard. The ludus magnus in Rome, the largest in the empire, built by Emperor Domitian directly east of the Colosseum and connected to it by an underground passage, could house close to 2,000 fighters. Wherever you are, the structure is the same. Everything you need to survive is inside. Everything that connects you to the world outside is gone. The lanista's physician examines you first. This is not charity, it is business. He checks your joints, your lungs, your eyes, the strength of your grip. He looks for injuries that might limit your usefulness. He makes a recommendation. If the recommendation is favorable, you are accepted. You are given a cell. Roughly 9 feet by 13 feet. You will share it with at least one other man, possibly 3. A straw mat, a blanket, 4 pegs on the wall. Archaeologists excavating the ludus at Pompeii found exactly these cells, exactly these pegs, preserved under volcanic ash for nearly 2,000 years. The stone does not lie. You eat that evening for the first time as a novitius. Barley porridge, beans, dried fruit. 3 meals a day, every day. The diet is calculated. The barley builds a layer of subcutaneous fat over muscle and organs, fat that bleeds dramatically when cut but protects the deeper tissues beneath. The Romans understood sports medicine better than most people today give them credit for. You do not train today, you watch. Tomorrow, you begin. The tyro. 3 months have passed. You are a tyro now, a gladiator in training who has been formally accepted into the school, sworn the oath, and begun the daily work of transformation. The sacramentum you swore was not a gentle promise. It was an oath to the gods of the underworld, an acknowledgement that you accepted burning, beating, death, whatever the arena required. You spoke those words in the training yard while your doctor watched your face for any sign that you didn't mean them. You understood. You spoke them anyway. The palace is your constant companion, 2 meters tall, a wooden post set firmly in the center of the training yard. Every morning, before the sun has cleared the eastern wall, you stand in front of it with a rudis, a wooden training sword weighted heavier than the real thing, built to develop the muscles you'll need, and you strike. Thrust, cut, recover. Thrust, cut, recover. Your doctor watches the angle of your wrist, the position of your back foot, the height of your shield. He corrects without explaining. You adjust without questioning. You come back tomorrow and do it again. The doctors are all former fighters. Everyone a man who survived the arena long enough to retire into training. Yours fought for 11 years before a knee injury ended his career. He does not speak much about his time in the sand, but his body tells the story regardless. The scar tissue along his forearm, the way he shifts his weight when he stands still for too long. After the morning sessions, the school provides a hot steam bath and a massage. Not luxury, injury prevention. A fighter with poorly recovered muscles breaks down, and the lanista's investment requires maintenance. Your fighting style is being assessed. Not every tiro suits every style, and the doctors evaluate over weeks. Your speed, your footwork, your aggression or patience, your height and reach. Maybe you are a Mimio, the heavy rectangular scutum, the short gladius, a style of power and positioning. Maybe the Thryax fits you better, with the small round palmular shield and the curved Sika blade that demands speed and angled precision. Maybe the Retiarius, no helmet, a trident, a weighted net, and the kind of spatial awareness that cannot be trained into someone who doesn't already have it. The decision defines your career. Once assigned, you train that style and no other. A tiro typically trains for a year or more before his first professional bout. Half of all gladiators who ever died in the arena did so in their first year of fighting. The mortality concentrated at the beginning, when the training is finished but the experience is not yet there. Your doctor knows this. He does not rush you. You keep striking the palace. You keep getting better. The Quartus Palace. Your first fight is over. You walked into that arena as a tyro and you are walking out of it, walking, which is what matters, as a Quartus Palace. The lowest of the 4 arena ranks, but a rank, an earned position. You have fought. You have survived. You are no longer a prospect or an apprentice. You are a gladiator. The Palace ranking system, Quartus, Tertius, Secundus, Primus, is built entirely on results. No one is promoted by seniority or by the Lannister's preference. The ranking reflects victories in the arena within your fighting style. Inscriptions that archaeologists found on gladiatorial tombstones almost never mention Quartus or Tertius ranking. There was no glory in advertising the bottom grades. But inside the school, everyone knows where everyone stands, and the hierarchy organizes everything from where you sit at meals to how the doctors distribute their time. You fought a man from a ludus 2 towns over. Another fighter of comparable experience, matched carefully. The fight lasted longer than you expected. Training prepares your body, but not the specific quality of attention required when the man across from you is genuinely trying to hurt you. Your doctore tried to describe this gap and could not close it in words. Now you understand what he meant. You took a cut on your upper left arm. Not deep. This is part of the calculation the Romans had already worked out. Gladiators fought without tunics because linen or wool fibers driven into a wound by a blade would cause the infection that actually killed you. The equipment exposes enough body to make the fight dramatic while protecting the areas that would end it immediately. You fight 2 or 3 times a year from here. Between bouts, training continues every day, without exception. The prize money from a bout goes largely toward the debt the school holds on you if you are enslaved, or toward the financial arrangement in your auctoramentum contract if you volunteered. The school feeds you, houses you, heals you. The arena settles what it owes. The crowd in the provincial arena where you fought numbered perhaps a few hundred. They were loud in the way of small spaces, stone walls reflecting everything back at you, compressed, amplified. When you walked through the gate and the sound hit you for the first time, it was unlike anything training had prepared you for. Not worse, not better. A different dimension of existence entirely. You filed that away. You will need to understand it better as the crowds get larger. Before we go further, if you've made it this far, comment what you want next. Hit that like button right now and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We upload every single day. The Tertius Palace. You have won enough fights that the school treats you differently. Not dramatically, not with ceremony. But the difference is in the texture of daily life inside the ludus. And that texture is what your whole existence is made of. So it matters. The doctors give your sessions more detailed attention. The subtle, high-level work now. Reading an opponent's breath and weight shifts before he commits. Managing your attacks to create moments the crowd reads as drama without sacrificing tactical position pacing your stamina across a long bout because a fighter who visibly fades in the final third has already lost the crowd before he loses the fight. You are a tertius palis, third post. Inside the school, everyone knows where everyone stands, and tertius is solidly mid-rank. You are no longer new. You are not yet the best. You are a functioning gladiator with a real record and a name that regional games organizers are beginning to recognize. The bouts you fight now are in larger venues. Not the Colosseum, but proper city amphitheaters holding several thousand. The crowd is more sophisticated at this level. They know good technique from bad. Recognize when a fighter is stalling versus managing position. Feel the difference between a fight worth watching and one that isn't. You have learned to read that energy in real time and adjust. You think about your opponent now in a way you didn't as a novitius. Before a bout, you study whatever information is available. You run scenarios in your mind before sleep. Not obsessively. Enough. You have seen a fight end badly. Not your own, but another man from your school came back from a bout in a city north of Capua on a cart. He lived. The injury to his shoulder may never fully recover. He trains around the damage now, which is its own form of skill. You understand mortality in the arena differently after that. Not with fear. Fear is not useful here. But with the precise awareness that the line exists and is narrower than it looks from the outside. You train accordingly. You are building something now. Not just a record. Not just a rank. Something in the way you move, the way you read the space between you and an opponent, the way your body makes decisions, faster than your mind forms them. It accumulates slowly, fight by fight, morning by morning. You cannot point to when it started. You just notice, one day, that it is there. The secundus palis. Your name is on the wall, not your birth name. Your arena name, assigned early in your Tiro period, drawn from your origin or your style, or some quality the school decided was worth selling to Roman crowds. It is painted on the libellus, the program posted on city walls, before games. And you have seen people stop and read it and say it aloud to each other in the street. You are a secundus palis. Second post, the rank that gladiators actually mentioned with pride in their tombstone inscriptions, because by now you have accumulated enough victories to represent something real. You fight men of comparable rank and experience. The Roman arena matched opponents carefully because a lopsided pairing satisfied no one and wasted fighters on outcomes that required no skill to produce. The crowd's number in the thousands now. You have developed a relationship with the crowd that took years to understand. The crowd is not just an audience. It generates a pressure that exists in the air of the arena and pushes against everything you do. In training, your body knows the movements. In the arena, your body knows the movements, and the crowd is pulling at your attention at the same time, demanding that the fight be something worth watching. You have to perform and compete simultaneously without letting one compromise the other. The best fighters make this look effortless. It is not effortless. Your medical care has grown more sophisticated. The school's physician tracks your injuries across your career, noting which healed cleanly and which left structural vulnerabilities. The Ephesus Gladiator Cemetery, excavated centuries later, revealed skeletons showing high-quality wound care. Injuries properly treated and healed. The Romans understood that an improperly healed fighter was a financial liability, and this commercial logic produced some of the best trauma medicine in the ancient world. You are in your mid-20s. Most gladiators who died in the arena did so between their 20th and 30th year. You know this. You train with it in the room. You also know that some fought into their 30s and beyond. One tombstone from Ephesus belongs to a retired fighter who died at 99. The range is brutal on one end and genuinely possible on the other, and what separates them is skill, discipline, luck, and the willingness to keep working when the work is hard and the body is tired, and the reward is another morning exactly like this one. You keep working. The primus palus. There is a word the Romans use for the best fighter in the school. Primus palus. First post. You hold it now. This is not an award. Nobody made a speech. The rank accumulated through victories, recorded carefully, compared against every other fighter in your style, within the ludus, and at some point, the arithmetic became undeniable. The primus palus secutorum, the primus palus, thricum. Whatever your style, you are now the acknowledged best in that category in this school. The practical differences are real. Your cell is better. A corner allocation, more light, more quiet. Sometimes the primus palus is given separate quarters entirely. The Emperor Commodus, a man who could have chosen any existence, insisted on being called primus palus of the secutores and demanded the privileges of the rank in the ludus magnus. That an emperor wanted this title tells you what it meant in the Roman imagination. Your bouts now draw significant crowds. The libellus, featuring a primus palus from an established school, generates real anticipation. Roman spectators were knowledgeable. They followed fighters across years the way modern audiences follow athletes, with opinions, with loyalty, with the ability to identify good technique from bad and say so loudly. Your name in the program means something to the people who read it. You have lost fights. Any real gladiator who fought enough to reach primus palus has losses, because the alternative is not fighting men good enough to test you. And those opponents aren't what built your reputation. An inscription records a gladiator with 51 career victories. It doesn't say he never lost, only that he won 51 times. The fights you remember most are not the easy victories. They are the ones that came closest to going the other way. Moments of genuine improvisation inside dangerous situations, solutions that training did not specifically prepare you for. Those are the fights that made you, not the comfortable ones. You have crossed the line between training and instinct so completely that when your doctor asks you to describe a specific movement from a recent bout, your hands demonstrate it more accurately than your words describe it. That is what a decade of this work produces. That is the rank, the rudiarius. The rudis is smaller than you expected, a piece of carved wood, light, plain in most cases, or sometimes inscribed with the fighter's name and notable victories. You have been looking at it for years, the wooden sword that functions as proof of a gladiator's freedom, carried at all times, shown to anyone who questions your legal status. You expected it to feel heavy with meaning. What it actually is ordinary. What it represents is not ordinary at all. You are a rudiarius, a fighter who has received the rudis, awarded by the game's editor, or by the emperor's representative, or occasionally by the emperor himself for a performance of exceptional quality, and who is no longer bound by the sacramentum that has governed every day of your life in the ludus. The rudiarius carried his rudis everywhere. In a world where legal status determined everything about how you moved through public space, it was the physical proof of yours. Some rudiarii retired completely, lived on accumulated prize money, perhaps bought property, disappeared into Roman life as far as the law permitted, which was complicated. Former gladiators were famous in some circles, and legally classified as infames in others, the same low-status category as actors and certain tradespeople. The contradiction was very Roman, and nobody resolved it cleanly. Many chose to keep fighting, not because they had to, but because as free men, they now negotiated their own contracts, and the fees available to a celebrated rudiarius were extraordinary. Emperor Tiberius paid individual retired gladiators 100,000 sesterces each to appear at games held in honor of his grandfather, Drusus. Fame, money, and a life built around a single discipline for a decade. The arena did not release people cleanly just because a piece of carved wood changed their legal status. You walk out of the ludus gate on the day of your release and stand in the street, and the city moves around you. The carts, the arguments, the children. the smell of bread baking, the noise of a Roman morning in full motion. And you understand, in a way that is almost impossible to put into words, that ordinary is the most remarkable thing you have ever witnessed. You carry the Rudies. You have not decided yet what comes next. The Doctor. Most men, when they think about the arena, think about the fighters. Almost no one thinks about you. That is the correct arrangement. The moment a new Tiro stops and stares instead of working, the moment the rhythm of the training yard breaks, because something about your presence demands attention. That is a failure. Your job is to be everywhere and noticed by no one. Invisible authority, constant presence. The reason the whole machine runs without anyone stopping to ask why. You are the doctor, a trainer, a former fighter who earned the Rudies, walked out of the Ludus a free man, and came back. Because what else do you do with a decade of accumulated knowledge and nowhere useful to put it? The Lanista made you an offer. You accepted. Now the training yard is yours before dawn and yours after dusk, and the men inside it are your responsibility completely, without qualification, without anyone to hand the problem to. Each doctor trained exclusively in the style he had fought. Doctor Secutorum for the Secutores, Doctor Thraciacum for the Thracians. Because expertise this deep is style-specific and cannot be generalized. You cannot teach what you have not lived, and the men you train will know if you are bluffing. You trained in the same arc these men are now training in. You remember exactly where the errors cluster. The third month, when the foundational movements feel solid, and the fighter relaxes the discipline that built them. The seventh month, when fatigue creates a compensating lean that looks like style, but is actually weakness. You remember because you made every one of these errors yourself. What a tyro looks like when he is genuinely progressing versus performing the appearance of progress. The difference is visible to you immediately. That eye took years to build. You will not be famous for it. The inscriptions that survive from this era record fighters, not trainers. But every primus palus who finds, in the decisive moment of a real bout, that his body already knows the answer, that man was made, in part, here, before dawn, at the Palus, under your watch. The Summa Rudis. The crowd does not know your name. That is the point. If they know your name, it means something went wrong and you became the story instead of the fighters. You are the Summa Rudis, the senior referee of gladiatorial combat, the highest non-fighting role a man from this world can hold. And your entire authority rests on being so completely in command of every situation that no situation ever requires the crowd to look at you twice. You wear a white tunic with a purple border. You carry a baton. You stand close enough to touch either fighter in a single step, and you watch everything. Not just the strikes and counters, but the breathing, the weight shifts, the quality of footwork in the third minute versus the eighth, the specific way a man moves when managing a hidden injury versus managing a position. You have been in this world long enough that the difference between those two things is readable to you before it becomes visible to anyone else. You know every legal fighting style, every permitted technique, every illegal strike. You call pauses. You manage restarts. When a fighter goes down and 60,000 Romans fill the arena with noise, and the editor looks from the crowd to the sand, your assessment matters. Your composed presence in that moment is what keeps spectacle from becoming disorder. Men like Aelius, a Summa Rudis, whose name was found inscribed in Ankara centuries later, granted citizenship by multiple Greek cities for his bravery and conduct in this role, built the reputation you now carry. Quiet, precise, definitive. You started at the palace. You ended here, not in the sand, but above it, watching everything. The arena runs because you make it run. Nobody handed you this. You built it, rank by rank, fight by fight, the same way every man in this world built everything he ever had. That is the job. Nobody handed you a name at the beginning. By the end, you had one that the city painted on its walls. The journey between those two facts was built from the same materials every single morning. Rising before the sun, striking the palus, accepting the correction, returning tomorrow. 8 ranks, each one earned through the one before it. No shortcuts, no substitutions, no way through except directly through. The Colosseum still stands in Rome. The sand is long gone. The Ludi are ruins. The Ludus Magnus is partially excavated, a courtyard of stones, a short walk from the arena it served for centuries. What those stones held was not just violence. It was one of the most disciplined systems of human development the ancient world ever organized. A system that took men at their absolute lowest and built them, through repetition and escalating challenge and daily honest reckoning, into something the Roman world had no higher word for. The sand is gone. The system is still here. Every person who has ever built something real out of nothing, through daily work, through honest ranking, through the willingness to be corrected and come back tomorrow, has walked some version of this same road. It starts at the palace. It starts right now.